Greetings. Do without wilt shall be the whole of the law. I'm Lexi Eve, and welcome back to another Walk Magic video. So today we're going to be going over the greater ritual of the pentagram. Now, unlike the LBRP video, today I'm not going to be going hard with gematria. In fact, I'm going to focus more on just using the ritual and how to get it down efficiently. Once again, before we start, I just want to mention that on the spring equinox, I'm going to be giving away a Stele of Revealing replica in 2/5 scale. Around the spring equinox, probably on the day of, I'm going to try to post a short video explaining how that is going to work, so just stay tuned for that. But I want to get the subscribers up to 1K in order to get this giveaway to go down. So please subscribe, share the video. If you comment and like, it helps more people see these videos from what I'm aware of, so please do that as well. But without further ado, let's dive into this ritual, the Greater Pentagram. So, the Greater Ritual of the Pentagram comes from the Golden Dawn, and Crowley outlines how to perform it in Liber O, vel Manus et Sagittae, subfigura 6. A link to the text is in the description below. It's a PDF from the scans from the Equinox. So it's facsimiles from 1st edition, Equinox Volume 1. This is a circle casting that works with the 5 elements. You perform it after the lesser ritual of the pentagram, usually the lesser banishing. You could also do the lesser invoking after you do the lesser banishing pentagram ritual. Then if you're feeling spicy, in addition, you could do the LBRH, the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, as well as the lesser invoking ritual of the hexagram before you dive into the greater pentagram ritual. I don't think I mentioned this in the LBRP video, but it's an idea I hold and I think it's important to note. I find that such circle castings as from Liber O tend to have a shell life of about 24 to 48 hours. After that, the circle and astral light tends to dissipate, and the boundary you have made weakens. So if you're new to magic, you should be doing the LBRP and LBRH at least once a day. Better if you're doing it 2 or 3 times a day. Like you could do the LBRP in the morning with the LBRH, then the lesser invoking rituals of the pentagram and hexagram, and then banish both again at night. So do morning, afternoon, and night is one way to do it. Or you could do the invokings in the morning, banishings at the night. See, there's an idea of a magician perfecting their circle, and it consists of removing all lower characteristics and fortifying one's astral body by exposure to many various energies and planes. Now, after many years of practice, I find that one's body of light, their circle, becomes crystallized and eventually impregnable. Of course, if you stop practicing altogether, then over years the astral body will weaken. But I do believe that the astral body, just like the physical body, has what you might call muscle memory. One's first time exercising, it takes a lot of work to get a solid physique. Then if you stop, you become flabby again. But once you start working out again, it's going to take less time to get back into shape. You just retain that memory, and I think it's the same for the astral body. Once a magician perfects their circle, they have a perimeter cast around them that wards off all but the most extremely powerful toxic energies. They repel negativity as if a golf ball thrown at a brick wall. But the new magician has yet to fortify their circle. When you do magic, you're essentially lighting astral light in the darkness of the nothingness of space. So you're casting a light in darkness. And astral beings, especially malignant ones, tend to be attracted to that light, like moths to a flame. Something bright they cannot possess. By doing circle castings of Liber O, you are essentially igniting an astral flame in the darkness, whilst also protecting yourself from such forces. They cannot penetrate the circle once cast. Though, if they happen to stumble along and see this circle, they like to come to the perimeter. Especially if you're doing more advanced rituals, you might see things come to the perimeter of your circle just to check out what's happening. There's an energy here. It's interesting to them. So, after that shell life of 24 to 48 hours, if you have unwittingly attracted a low spirit or an elemental, they see that light and come towards it, and then it decays, well, there's a chance that they might be drawn to the magician and could either feed or wreak havoc in the magician's life. So if you're new and start doing the LBRP and other astral rituals especially, don't stop once you start. It's best to follow through consistently for at least a couple of years and work towards reinforcing your circle and astral body so that they become impregnable. Now on to the greater ritual of the pentagram. The first thing you have to learn is which element corresponds with which point on the pentagram. That's definitely first in my opinion. Spirit is at the top, clockwise, water is on the right, fire is at the bottom right, earth at the bottom left, air at the top left, and then spirit back at the top. So memorize which points of the pentagram are attributed to which element. The next thing to note is which element corresponds with which cardinal quarter. The east is air, south is fire, west is water, north is earth. Spirit is all four quarters, but there are two types of spirit pentagrams. There's an active and passive, masculine and feminine. Keep in mind air and fire are masculine elements, and water and earth are feminine elements. Active spirit pentagrams, then are the masculine, they go in the east and south. Passive spirit pentagrams go in the west and north. Next, let's look at how to draw invoking and banishing elemental pentagrams. It's helpful to know that when invoking, you're going to draw the pentagram towards the element you are using. To banish, you're going to begin at the element and then draw towards where you invoke from. So let's look at the 5 pairs of invoking and banishing. Air pentagrams is in the east where you're going to begin. So for air invoking, you begin on the right at the water point and you draw horizontal towards air, making all 5 lines of the pentagram and finishing back at water. To banish, begin at the air point and draw towards water, completing of all 5 points of the 5 lines of the pentagram. So you'll end back at air for the banishing. In the south, the fire invoking pentagram is drawn from the top point down towards the bottom right point, where the fire corresponds with that point in the pentagram. For a fire banishing, begin at the fire point and draw towards the top point. In the west, the water invoking pentagram is drawn from the air point towards the water. To banish, begin at water and draw towards air. For earth, which is north, invoking is drawn from the top point down to the lower left point. To banish, begin at the bottom left, which is earth, and draw upwards, just like you do in the LBRP. Now for spirit. After each of the previous 4 pentagrams, you additionally are going to draw an active spirit pentagram in the east and south, and a passive spirit pentagram in the west and north. Unlike the other 4 elements, these are not drawn from the actual spirit point at the top. Rather, the invokings are the 2 lower points, the banishings are the midpoints on the horizontal vertex. For me, it was easiest to memorize these by noting that the active spirit pentagram is drawn from the fire point at the bottom right towards the air point. Both of these are masculine elements. The banishing of active is from the air point towards fire. The passive invoking pentagram is drawn from earth towards water. To banish, begin at water and draw down towards earth. So in this ritual, the greater ritual of the pentagram, you're going to end up making a total of 8 pentagrams. After every single pentagram, you're going to point to its center, intone a word of power, and then give a specific AA grade sign which corresponds with that element. After the air pentagram, you're going to give the sign of Shu corresponding with the grade of Yesod. Yesod is an air Sephiroth on the middle pillar. It's made by making 90-degree angles with your elbows as though you're supporting the sky above you. After the fire pentagram in the south, you make the sign of Daum Aish Niyat. This is done by making your hands form a triangle on your brow line. This sign corresponds with the grade of Practicus in Netzach, a fiery sphere. After the water pentagram in the west, you make the sign of Aramoth. This is done by making an inverse triangle on your chest, almost at just below your neck, with your hands making an inverse triangle. This sign corresponds with the grade of Philosophus in Hod, which is a watery sphere. After the earth pentagram, you make the sign of Set Fighting. This is done by advancing the right foot forward one step and swinging your arms, the right arm up, the left arm down to the back, making a diagonal line through your torso with your arms. This grade sign corresponds with the grade of Neophyte, which is in the sphere of Malkuth. Malkuth is the only earthy sphere, and it's at the bottom of the Tree of Life. After the two active spirit pentagrams, the masculine, you're going to make the sign of the rending of the veil. This is done by clasping your hands at your waist, then turning them so the back of your hands touch, and then separating them away from each other, as if you're parting a curtain. And finally, after the two passive spirit pentagrams, the feminine spirit pentagrams, you make the sign of the closing of the veil. This is done by starting with your hands separated, like after the rending, but now you turn your palms towards each other, and then close your arms so that your palms touch back at the waist, as if you're closing that veil back. So these last two signs, the rending and closing of the veil, are from the grade of Dominus Liminis, which is a grade located below Tiferet at what is called the veil, Parokef. It is a lower reflection of the abyss, just like the second triad of Chesed, Geborah, and Tiferet are a reflection of the supernals. Now lastly, what you need to know to do this ritual is what words of power are intoned after making each of the 8 pentagrams. After the air pentagrams, you point to its center and you intone Yod He Vav He. After the fire pentagram, you point to its center and intone Elohim. After the water pentagram, you point to its center and intone El. After the earth pentagram, you point to its center and intone Adonai. After the active spirit pentagrams, you point to their centers and intone Eheyeh. After the passive spirit pentagrams, you point to their centers and intone Ate, Gebor, Leolam, Adonai. All of these words should already be familiar from the LBRP if you've already begun that. So these are the differences from the LBRP. Now, everything else you do in the greater ritual of the pentagram is exactly the same as the LBRP, from the opening and closing Kabbalistic cross and the whole calling of the archangels. Now I'm going to do a full verbal run-through of the entire greater ritual, the entire greater pentagram invoking ritual, from beginning to end. So, having performed the LBRP and LBRH, you stand in the center of your temple space and begin with the Kabbalistic cross. This is fully explained in my LBRP video, so I'll just reiterate shortly what you do. You're visualizing a sphere of light above your head, bring a shaft of light down, and you touch your brow line, intoning Ate. Ate means thou. It's a name of God. It's your forehead you're touching while you intone it. So what is happening is that you are recognizing that you are God. The divine light you made in Kether above your head in that sphere, it is in you, and you are waking it up. The shaft of light descends all the way to your heart center, making a sphere. You point to your heart, and you intone Ayawaz, or the name of your HGA. Again, the shaft of light descends, and you keep your hand basically pointing down from your genital area, and the shaft of light descends all the way to your feet, where a sphere of light appears at the ground, and you intone Malkuth. So this is thou, the HGA, the kingdom. It's confirming and actualizing that God, yourself, the HGA, and the world are all one and in perpetual union. So this activates the middle pillar. You bring your hand back up to your heart, and you draw a shaft of light to your right shoulder, intone Vegebura. Draw a shaft of light to your left shoulder from the heart, intone Vegedula. This activates the pillars of severity and mercy. Your hands are then clasped at your heart with your fingers interlaced. The interlacing is very important. Your 10 fingers correspond with the 10 Sephiroth. By interlacing your fingers, you're indicating the unity of the Tree of Life, which, by the intonations of the Kabbalistic cross, is now activated and alight. Now, you advance to the east. Oh, and also while your hands are clasped, you say, or intone, Leolam, Amen. You advance to the east. You're going to draw an air pentagram, which, if you're doing invoking, you start at the water point on the right, and you draw left, complete a full pentagram, point to its center, intone Yod He Vav He, and then you give the sign of Shu, 90-degree angles with your arms. Then, still in the east, you're going to draw an active spirit pentagram. This is done from the bottom right, from fire towards air, complete a full pentagram in the astral light. Point to its center and intone Eheia. Then you're going to give the sign of the rending of the veil. Draw a quarter of a circle to the south. Draw a fire pentagram. Point and intone Elohim. Give the sign of Daum Eshniath, the fire triangle on your brow line. Draw another active spirit pentagram. Point and intone Eheia. Give the sign of the rending of the veil again and now in the south. Draw a quarter circle to the west. Water pentagram. Point and intone El. Give the sign of Aramoth, which is a water triangle on your chest, just above your breast. Still in the west, now draw a passive spirit pentagram, which is from the bottom left up towards the water point. So draw that pentagram, point to its center, and intone Ate Gebor Leolam Adonai. Then give the sign of the closing of the veil. Draw a quarter circle to the north, earth pentagram, point and intone Adonai. Give the sign of set fighting. Draw the final passive spirit pentagram, point and intone Ate Gebor Leolam Adonai, and again the sign of the closing of the veil. Complete your circle back in the east, and then withdraw to the center of your temple space. Extend your arms in the sign of Osiris slain. In this grade sign, you are signifying the spirit being nailed upon matter, being human. Now recite and intone. So you're in the sign of the cross. Before me, Raphael, intone Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. At my right hand, Michael. At my left hand, Oriel. You intone the names of those angels. For about me flames the pentagram, and in the column shineth the six-rayed star. This is a very good time to reinforce your visuals. And sometimes during any ritual, you might lose sight of, let's say, in this case, the circle, one of the 8 pentagrams, the hexagram on the floor or above your head, or the archangels. So if at any time during a ritual you notice that you're missing a visual, just take a second and pause, reinforce whatever is missing in your mind's eye, make sure it's stable, you could see it again, and then continue. So the pentagrams that you're drawing, in fact everything being drawn, can be just simple electric blue astral light. You could alternatively step it up a notch by making the spirit pentagrams electric blue, the air pentagram yellow, the fire one red, the water blue, and the earth green. That's your choice. After calling the archangels, you're going to repeat the Kabbalistic cross once more. So Ate, Ayawaz, Malkuth, Vegelbora, Vegedula, Leolam, Amen. You could give the sign of silence. Whatever energy's there, you could just take it into your being, and you're done. So what's happening here? Basically, you're using the pentagrams, which is a symbol of the 5 elements, to actively call all 5 elements to your temple space. Very simple, very straightforward to elemental invoking or banishing. You're either bringing those elements or you're cleansing your space of those elements. Here's a practice recommendation that I personally use to help commit this ritual to memory. Instead of doing all 5 elemental pentagrams, make this a 6-week practice, done 7 days a week, and this is how it goes. Each day for the entire 6 weeks, you do your LBRP, LBRH. Then for the first week, you're only going to do earth invoking pentagrams right after the LBRP, LBRH. So earth invoking pentagrams in all 4 quarters. You finish the greater ritual of the pentagram, so you call the angels, you do the Kabbalistic cross, and then you sit in an asana position for 5 to 10 minutes, or any meditative posture for 5 to 10 minutes. Sit in your circle after the greater earth invoking ritual of the pentagram and feel the energy of earth. After asana is done, do the greater earth, quote-unquote, earth banishing ritual of the pentagram. So you're just going to banish all 4 earth pentagrams and complete that greater ritual of the pentagram in that way, just using earth. The second week you're going to use air. The third week you use water. The fourth week fire. The fifth week spirit, parentheses, using active pentagrams in the east and south, passive in the west and north. And then the final 6th week, do the full greater ritual of the pentagram with all 5 elements. In my opinion, this is going to help you memorize how to draw all the pentagrams and memorize what words of power intone. It's also going to expose you to each element isolated. This is very helpful for future astral plane experiments and clairvoyance. See, once you learn how something feels, you could identify it immediately. Now you may wonder, but I thought the quarters correspond with the 4 elements. How then can you draw one element in all 4 quarters? To which I respond, yes, you're correct. The elements do correspond with the 4 quarters. But each element has all other elements in it. Think of the Hindu tattvas, or the court cards of tarot. Like the Queen of Wands is the watery part of fire. So you could look at it as you're working with elements in that way. Take air, for example. It's drawn in all 4 quarters in the 2nd week of this recommended practice. Only the east is all air. So by drawing the air pentagram in the other 3 quarters, you're working with the airy part of fire in the south, the airy part of water in the west, and the airy part of earth in the north. By the end of these 6 weeks, you will have isolated each element in all of its aspects, exposed your body of light to it, and should certainly have memorized all of the ways to draw the elemental pentagrams and everything else you need to do for the greater ritual of the pentagram. It's a 6-week discipline. It'll probably take you 20 minutes with the asana, and you're going to memorize this ritual permanently. You should at that point, if you do it once a day for 6 weeks. That's how I memorized it when I was new to it. I haven't ever had a problem trying to memorize this ritual since. Next, I want to look at the words of power being intoned, and I'm not going into crazy gematria, I just want to explain why they're used for each pentagram. So for air, Yod He Vav He. In the Golden Dawn, their Garden of Eden papers, Yod He Vav He is placed over the abyss to separate the supernal Eden from the rest of the Tree of Life. It's placed in the center, on the middle pillar. Yod He Vav He is a conglomeration of the elements. Yod is fire, He is water, Vav is air, He is fire again. And it's derived from Kether, the union of everything. Yod He Vav He is thus a lower form of the highest. It's lower than Chakma and Bina, almost like the offspring of the mother and father, but just in this way. You know, Yod He Vav He could be Chakma. I'm just saying, in terms of this one paper, the Garden of Eden, Yod He Vav He is placed on the abyss as a power to separate the above from the below. So in this way, it's placed in the center, it's placed in the middle pillar, it's also derived from Kether, which is an airy sphere. And it's also kind of in this way derived from Chakma and Bina, almost like the offspring of the mother and father. So it does have that princey aspect to him. Elohim is intoned for the fire pentagram. Elohim is the masculine plural of El. Being masculine and a term for the gods of Judaism, I think it works well with fire. El, the singular feminine name of God, is then the opposite of fire, and Elohim, so to speak, then fits water just fine. Adonai is earth. Adonai Melech is a divine name of Malkuth. Malkuth is the only earth sphere on the Tree of Life, and so in this way, Adonai fits well enough. For the active spirit pentagram, Ehiyah is intoned. Ehiyah is a divine name of Kether. Kether is on the middle pillar, which is air, and is the highest sphere, closest to spirit or Ein Sof. So being that air is also a representation of spirit, I think that this works for the masculine spirit pentagrams just fine. It's trying to represent that fatherly aspect of Kether. For the passive spirit pentagrams, Ate Gebor Leolam Adonai is intoned. Now, this is the same term employed in the LBRP in the north, which only uses earth pentagrams anyway, so it's a very earthy, LBRP is very earthy ritual, but this is the word or term used in the north, Agla, which is Ate Gebor Leolam Adonai. So it's a saying that the highest and the lowest are one, thou and Adonai, and Adonai again is fitting for earth, a feminine element. So I find that this phrase fits very well with the passive spirit pentagrams. It's combining Ate, the highest, Adonai, the lowest, in a feminine way. With a little bit of masculinity. Gebor means strength. Leolam is forever, like eternity, which can be feminine space. So I find one little masculine aspect with a lot of femininity mixed in there, as well as an above and below aspect. The gematria of all these words is fully expressed in my LBRP video, so I'm not going to go repeat all of that here. On the grade signs employed in this ritual, I'm not going to explain much about them today. I am making one grade sign per video on my channel, like I've just done set fighting. I also did in another video the sign of silence and the sign of the interim. So in those videos you'll get a full breakdown of all the 8 grade signs. I will only say that you should keep in mind when you're giving a grade sign, it's a magical gesture. It carries an energy and has some type of power. Some of these signs are elemental, some are solar or of LVX, the rest are of NOX, Nox, night, LVX, Lux, light. Every grade sign corresponds also with the Sephiroth. When giving a grade sign, you're invoking a power of the sign, and all of the energies associated with its corresponding grade or Sephiroth. They are also holy gestures and should be treated as sacred. They are not to be used for fun or disrespectfully. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. If you give the sign of Mater Triumphant in a crude, joking way, keep in mind it's associated with Bina, a Sephiroth above the abyss, the sphere of Saturn. Saturn at the best of times is very heavy and burdensome. To disrespect Saturn could be catastrophic. To benefit from working with Saturn appropriately, richly rewarding. So when giving a grade sign during the greater ritual of the pentagram, know what this sign signifies, what powers or energies are attached to it and are being invoked, and how to benefit the most from each sign. Like, for example, how you crystallize your body of light in the sign of silence. Most grade signs have some ability that can be used while standing in it. Like I said, in time I'm going to have videos for each and every grade sign. Until then, use them as meditative poses and try to discern what is happening by giving the sign, and if there's something you could do while in it that will benefit you physically, mentally, and or spiritually. I hope this video helps get you started with this ritual, or if you've been doing it, to get back into it. I could say enough about doing the 6 weeks recommended practices. As I mentioned, do it, give it a try. I can't say enough about it. As this video was an expansion of my LBRP video, soon I will be expanding upon the greater pentagram ritual by making a video about the supreme ritual of the pentagram. So that next version is very similar to the greater pentagram, only it takes it one step further by adding in potency from the Enochian system. So you're going to add Enochian magic to the mix. The 5 elements have a very important place in Enochian magic, and the supreme ritual of the pentagram truly encapsulates Enochian magic in a powerful way, so please stay tuned for that upcoming video. Until next time, I'm Lexi Eve. Love is the law. Love under will. I'll see y'all in the next one.